All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to our October 18th meeting. I want to wish my wife a happy birthday because I know she's home watching tonight. No. But she's with my daughter and friends, so I'm sure she's having just as much fun as we're going to have tonight. Having said that, I do have one, I guess, bit of bad news. We had a teen suicide that I found out about this afternoon in Huntersville, and which is certainly a tragedy. But I did receive a very nice complimentary email for Detective Lesser, who was the lead detective on that. So I don't know the family, but if you could, as we go into our moment of silence, not only think about the family, but think about our Detective Lesser, as well as the other officers that had to work through that scene. So please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Once again, I want to thank everybody. I actually will be attending on October 27th, the Metropolitan Transit Commission meeting. I think some of the topics for that will be an update on the Gold Line, which just started, as well as what to charge the other communities outside of Mecklenburg County for the service that's provided. A bit of good news for those that want the Rosenwald School in Delwood to get an historic designation. That's moving forward. They're actually having a meeting on October 20th, which is Wednesday, of the Historic Landmark Commission to move that forward. So that's all I have today. And Commissioner Hines.
Oh my goodness.
I saw you texting. You're not supposed to be texting during meetings.
Well, I'm still ready. I'll keep my report very brief. First off, I want to wish my wife a happy anniversary. Tomorrow will be 25 years, so that's so I will not, I say all that to say I will not be at the CRTPO meeting on Wednesday evening. Commissioner Boone is kind enough to attend that for me. But there's only 3 topics on the agenda. It's talking about the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan, the CRTPO Strategic Plan, and public engagement, the summary of that. So Commissioner Boone, thank you for being in attendance in my absence. So, Mr. Mayor, that's all I have.
Okay. Commissioner Bales? You gotta be on your toes tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do not have an EDC report this evening, but I do have a MEAC report. We will be meeting on Wednesday at 11:30, and that meeting will be virtual. So I look forward to getting back with our CMS partners. That is all.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Munger?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On October 7th, I attended the Huntersville Ordinance Advisory Board meeting where we discussed a number of topics, some of which will be on tonight's agenda. And last week I attended the Central Lena Regional Council regular meeting where we discussed various COVID initiatives happening in our region, including assisting residents who are at home due to limited mobility. The at-home vaccination hotline is 1-866-303-0026, or you can visit www.ptrc.org/COVID. Excuse me. We also discussed the Connect Beyond plan. Connect Beyond is a bold regional mobility plan that will transform how residents and visitors travel throughout our 12-county region. The Connect Beyond mobility moves are the building blocks for creating a network that will enhance economic competitiveness, improve access, and create transit-ready places. No word on whether or not we actually have discussions with Norfolk Southern on the red line, though. And last but not least, as always, if you have an opportunity to give, please consider supporting our nonprofits such as Angels and Sparrows, Caterpillar Ministries, Bags of Hope, Hope House, and Ada Jenkins. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Walsh?
Hello in Huntersville happens this coming Sunday right here at the Huntersville Athletic Park. The event will be from 4 to 7 p.m. for kids of all ages. Details are available on our website. The Huntersville Regional Chamber will hold their next monthly member meeting on Tuesday, October 26th. The meeting will be held at Northwest Mutual Office on North Coast Drive, and that starts at 4:30 p.m. From Visit Lake Norma, the Asian Festival and Dragon Boat Races return on October 23rd. Voted as one of the best events in May here in the Southeast, the festival is celebrating its 21st year. It will be held at Ramsey Creek Park with complimentary admissions and free satellite parking. The Greenway Trails and Bikeway Commission hold their regularly scheduled monthly meeting tomorrow evening. That meeting will be held at the Town Center building, and it starts at 6 p.m. And up on the slide you see up here, you'll see the new trailhead for the Vine. I was out there on Sunday. They're striping, and I think they're still doing some cleanup up there, but it's looking pretty nice. In fact, I saw some people kind of swinging on the swing set under the, I guess, the gazebos. But what I'd like to point out is that round area in the middle with the plants. It's the future location for a public piece of art. You'll be hearing about some ideas this evening when the Public Art Commission does an update for the board. Here's the issue, though. They, the Public Art Commission, must raise funds, seek grants, or in other ways pay for whatever they recommend. Interestingly, we did not ask the Greenway Trails and Bikeway Commission to pay for the new trailhead. Later in the agenda, the town board will ask us to vote on and approve $20,000 for the Raptor Center. This nonprofit was added to a list this year of nonprofits that we support from across the community. We donate to these organizations because they serve a greater good. And so what's the definition of a greater good? It's a benefit of the public of more people than oneself. While I have no objection to contributing to nonprofits, I think the greater good should also serve us supporting public art. Today, we provide no direct funding for our Public Art Commission. I believe we should invest in public art, and the art piece for the center of that island is a good place to start. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Phillips?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. American Legion Unit 321, located beside Veterans Park, will be having a chili cook-off this Friday, October 22nd, from 6:30 p.m. until 9 p.m. You will vote for the best chili with cash donations. The funds will be used to benefit local auxiliary programs within the American Legion. The Veterans Day Parade applications are also due this Friday. The parade will take place on November 13th at 10 a.m. in downtown Huntersville. Businesses, schools, churches, nonprofits, HOAs are all encouraged to participate. Participation in the parade is free. If you would like the application, you're welcome to reach out to me at sphillips@huntersville.org and I'll send it to you. And we are pleased to share with you that Star Med will be offering a COVID testing pop-up clinic this Wednesday from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. at Bradford Park. They will be offering both the rapid and PCR testing. You may make an appointment or register on site. Although we are still waiting on some details from them, we wanted to share this news with you. And if you do need the link, I would be happy to email that to you as well. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Boone?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight from the Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce. October 21st at 11:45 a.m., the annual Public Safety Luncheon will be held at Northstone Country Club. This is for Davidson, Cornelius, and Huntersville for the first responders. On October 28th, from 5:30 to 7 p.m., the Chamber will bring business communities from Cornelius, Davidson, and Huntersville, and Mooresville for a regional networking event that will be held at the First Reliance Bank in Mooresville, located at 249 Williamson Road. There will be barbecue, live music, drinks, and prizes. This will be one of the largest business after-hours post-COVID. From the Huntersville Police Department, they are going to be busy on community policing. On October 22nd from 5 to 8, Hopewell Presbyterian Church Festival. The police officers will be interacting with the attendees. October 23rd from 10 a.m. to 2, the Huntersville United Methodist Church Fall Festival. The officers will be in attendance at that event also. On the 24th from 4 to 7, the Town of Huntersville Halloween event here at the Rec Center will be between 4 and 7. On the 26th, the Huntersville Police Department will have a truck or treat at the Waymer Center from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. On October 31st, the Huntersville Police Department will have a truck or treat event at various apartment complexes, but details are being worked out now. And in closing, I would just like to say about campaign signs. I've reached out to Troop 19. They've agreed to pick up all of the campaign signs starting on October 5th. They will be ready to pick up that late afternoon on Saturday the 6th. The staging place is the north side of the town hall next to the Fosters. Each sign will cost the candidates $1. I've heard from all the candidates except for Ms. Swain, but I'm sure she'll want to be a participant in this. It's a great fundraiser for the Scouts, and it'll be a good idea for get our town cleaned up. Mr. Mayor, that's my message.
All right, well, thank you. Any questions of staff this time?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Bales?
I do have a quick question. The question is for Ms. Huffman. I know that last week you met with bond counsel regarding the refinancing that this board approved at our September 20th meeting. Would you mind giving us an update on what you heard and what you learned?
I'll be glad to. The Local Government Commission, you took action to approve at the second meeting in September 3 pieces of debt refinancing. The Local Government Commission approved that debt on October 5th. Our financial advisor chose a closing date of the 21st of October. I believe that's Thursday of this week. We had multiple conversations last week. There was a lot of underwriters, discussion who's going to wire exactly to what routing and bank account numbers, what amount of funds on what date. We have pre-signed those closing documents that will be official on October 21st. I personally have been in local government 26 years, and I have never been an issuer of LOBs, limited obligation bonds, so quite frankly, I had a fair amount to learn. There is not a ton of new information about the general obligation bonds. That's going to come off as we would have anticipated, and our installment financing had no prepayment penalty, so there's not a ton of new information there. If you had asked me to predict for the items that were impacted by the limited obligation bonds, frequently referred to as LOBs, when our obligations, be it collateral or potential private use issues would go away, I would have predicted at when we make the final payment on that debt, which those LOBs were issued in 2012, I would have assumed on December 1st, 2028, which would be in FY29, when we were scheduled to make the final payment, that's when our potential private placement issue would go away. I would have been wrong. According to our bond counsel, also our the tax attorney at our bond counsel was on the call, and they confirmed that technically when the final payment is made, and since we're refunding that debt, most of that debt will pay off the 21st when we sign these documents. There will be one bond that won't pay off until June 1st, 22, which is later in the current fiscal year. So on June 1st, 22, our potential private placement issue that you likely have heard us speak about that's related to the town, to the parking deck at Town Center, will have gone away. Technically, the majority of it will have gone away on the 21st when we refinance this debt. Their bond counsel would need to make a calculation of weighted average debt. To me, that's the way to think of that in my mind's eye is there's no calculation that needs to be performed after that final payment on June 1st, 22. When you issue general obligation debt, if you issue general obligation debt, quite frankly, as we did to build this building, or if you issued it to build roads, you might think that your collateral is what you build, this building or the roads. That's not so, and that I was clear on. Your Collateral, when you issue general obligation debt, is your taxing authority. And so what you've agreed to with bondholders is that you'll set the tax rate sufficient to repay that debt. So don't think of the collateral as exactly whatever you're doing with those bond proceeds. If you issue an installment financing, so if we had issued what's effectively a mortgage on this building, then the mortgage on this building, the collateral on this building would be the building. That's not so with limited obligation bonds. So I wasn't here in 2012 when the limited obligation bonds were issued, and many of the board members who are serving today were not serving in 2012. Much of the staff has turned over, and so I think it's a forgivable sin to not be aware of exactly what was offered as collateral. So 3 significant things were offered as collateral. The parking deck was one, hence the potential private placement issue, town center, and current town hall. What that means is if we had allowed those lobs to be outstanding until their final termination in 2029, FY 29, then there would already be an existing mortgage, a deed of trust on existing town hall. We've contemplated before when we build the new town hall that we might sell existing town hall. There would have been it would be collateral on a different loan, and we would not have been able to do that until we clear up that title. And so what we're doing with this LOBS issue does 2 things. First of all, I'm very proud that it saves us $980,000, and that estimate is still in effect. It saves us that interest over the remaining life of the loan, and in addition, it gives us additional flexibility on being able to sell current town hall and do other things should we choose to do them on the parking deck. I'm happy to respond to any questions you have. Anthony, you have anything to add?
Any questions? I'll just make a comment. Kudos to the staff. As I said when we announced the refinancing, I've been contacted 3 times from the state treasurer on this deal because he sees what has happened over the last few years in Huntersville. I'll reiterate once again, we are the best funded community in the whole state of North Carolina, and that doesn't happen by accident. So he contacted me to tell me that, hey, congratulations on this refinancing. And then he wanted some publicity. So we have a reporter here, so maybe she can do that, or if Lee Sullivan is watching, because he has, I think, 25 or 30 communities throughout North Carolina that would die for our balance sheet, and he has to look at them very closely. So anyway.
Anthony, I like kudos, and that's awesome, and we've got staff and a board that supports that, and I'm really appreciative, but we have to say thank you too for bond counsel and financial advisor. They do a great job too.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions of staff? Okay. So I just found out that this is National Arts and Humanities Month, which I was handed to. Nancy, where are you? Right there? Okay. I didn't recognize. So this is kind of an art day, so why don't you come up here? I have this proclamation, and there is a typo, so I'm going to give you this, and then I'm going to ask you for it back, okay?
Okay, I have some remarks too.
Okay, but, so I'll just do the proclamation that as mayor of the city of, oh, you stay there, I'm going to come get you. I don't want you to trip on these wires and sue us. I, John Hanarella, as mayor of the town of Huntersville, do hereby proclaim October as National Arts and Humanities Month in Huntersville, North Carolina, and call upon our community members to celebrate the arts and culture and to join in this special observance. So I'll bring this to you.
Don't you trip either. Good evening, Mayor Anarella and Commissioners. My name is Nancy Neely. As he said, I've been a part of the Huntersville community for 17 years. I previously served on the Huntersville Public Art Commission, and I currently serve as one of the 2 Huntersville residents appointed by this board to the Arts and Science Council's Northwest Advisory Council. On behalf of the artists, arts, and cultural organizations, businesses, educators, and residents of Huntersville that benefit from public support for local arts and culture, thank you for taking the time to recognize National Arts and Humanities Month. As Huntersville joins this collective recognition of the importance of culture, we are reminded of the power of the arts to bring us together and celebrate our common humanity. Thank you and happy National Arts and Humanities Month.
All right, thank you. And thank you for serving, because I know it was, we always tried to get somebody on that board to represent Huntersville, and it was
Happy
always
to be there.
difficult. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Dunn, you're here from the Public Art Commission. You have an update?
Hey, thank you, Mayor Anarella and Huntersville Commissioners. I'm April Dunn, Chairman of the Public Arts Commission, and I wanted to give you guys an update of what we've done in 2021. I believe we have a slide deck coming, so. There we go. So, this year's been an exciting year. Coming out of COVID, we had limited meetings, limited opportunities really to get out into the community, but we managed to do some great things this year. One of the things we did was a bus stop enhancement. You guys know them as benches. Teresa Holmeyer is a mosaic artist, and she was able to work on this piece. It's on Gilead Road across from the post office, and it's been used a lot, and we're excited about seeing it. That was provided by, the funding was provided by the Electricities grant. And it was also featured on Wake Up Charlotte with WCNC. In May, we had Hello Huntersville, and we were able to staff a booth with an interactive mural for children to participate. We had 112 different sticker tiles that the children colored, and actually adults did it too. And we placed on a grid laid out to have a beautiful mosaic at the end of the Hello Huntersville event. And it was really fun to see the kids come back and see how their piece fit with the rest of the mural, and what the people around them did. And that was an opportunity to get out with the community and just say, hey, we're interested in public art here in Huntersville. We were also able to use an ASC grant to partner with Old Huntersville Historical Society to reclaim some historical bricks. As many of you guys know, the Veterans Park location was the site of the original ice houses in Huntersville. There were 2 ice houses that were there in the 1900s, and the Old Huntersville Historical Society had the foresight to save the bricks for potential preservation and reuse later. We worked with artist William Toole, and his vision was to create something that would give the illusion of ice and blocks of ice, because that's where the ice houses were, and that's also next to the ice house stage. So we had that, and if you have a chance to get over there, there's a very nice plaque that gives the history of the location. It's quite lengthy, so it's not just a piece of art, and it's really cool at night when it lights up, but it also gives the history of that site. And it was wonderful to be able to work with the Old Huntersville Historical Society on that. Also in the summer, we were featured on the Visit Lake Norman website. They came and did a tour of downtown Huntersville with me. We went location by location. They took pictures, they updated their website, and they said, let's highlight what's going on in Huntersville. And if you go to visitlakenorman.org, you're gonna see the Huntersville art featured. A little bit of free publicity. Also this year, we're in the process of a new mural, and this is going to go on the restroom building in Veterans Park, and it's sponsored by the Kiwanis Club of Lake Norman. And it's based around the idea of an interactive mural that kids are going to be able to go up with a growth chart with the ideals of Kiwanis listed, and having really a photo opportunity as you see photo walls. And currently, the artist, Juliana Kaufman, is working on this piece by painting it on panels. And the beauty of this is she can continue to work in a controlled environment, and we could easily attach them to the wall. And we don't have to worry about the various levels of surface fluctuation in the wall, and we can easily maintain it. And that hopefully will be done by the end of this year, beginning of next year. Commissioner Walsh, whoops, here we go. Commissioner Walsh mentioned the downtown Greenway Trailhead sculptures. So we have an opportunity to put something here that's fantastic, and we're really excited about it. Today, we released a request for qualifications for artists to submit ideas. The deadline is November 5th. We would like for them to come in and say, hey, we have this beautiful idea for this area, and we have a large area that's approximately 29 feet in diameter, and you're going to be able to see it from the road. You're going to be able to see it from the other way when you come up, when you're sitting there. We want something that's going to reflect the town and to be grand. And so we're super excited about that. Again, the deadline is the 5th. We have $10,000 that has been donated from a company. We, in addition, have applied for 2 additional $10,000 grants, some of which we will not hear back from until next year. But we're hoping to be able to put at least a $40,000 sculpture there at the minimum. Looking into 2020, so we are looking at the possibility of a Huntersville Sculpt Tour. Here's some examples of what other towns have done, and it's leasing artist work at a low rate, which is usually around $2,000 for 2 years per item, and is sponsored by the businesses in the community. And that gives the residents and visitors an opportunity to explore our town while also giving exposure to the various artists, hopefully in our community, if not in North Carolina or the Southeast. And another idea that we're looking at, I don't know what, okay, is Art My Park. This is another successful initiative for public art that has happened in other towns. And the idea is to allow local and regional artists to paint a canvas that goes up for a 3-month period, and we would like specifically to put it in our parks, our public parks, to give people a place to go, maybe have a scavenger hunt surrounding it. This is a very low-cost thing. Basically, we provide the canvas and a small stipend for supplies, and at the end, the pieces are auctioned off, giving the participant, the artist, 75% of the proceeds, and 25% of the proceeds going back to the town for the next year. So this is something that we're seriously considering as an opportunity for sponsorships in the future. So that's all I have. Does anybody have any other questions?
Commissioner Bales?
I don't necessarily have a question.
Yes.
I do not necessarily have a question, but I do want to say thank you. These are some wonderful ideas, and you all have been working so hard. And I appreciate all the work that you've done, because art in our parks and art across our public space is a beautiful thing.
Thank
So
you.
thank you so very much for your work.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Anybody else? Thank you, Ms. Dunn. All right, go to public comments. Ms. Caldwell, are you here? Good evening.
good
Please state
evening.
your name and address. You have 3
My
minutes.
name Betty B.J. Caldwell, address 14521 New Haven Drive, Huntersville, North Carolina. I'm here to say thank you very much to the candidates who attended the forum on the 10th. It was a very successful event, and it started to open dialogue among the sitting board members and the people of the Pottstown Preservation Committee for Change. And we appreciate the opportunity to come before the board time and time again with issues and suggestions, and we appreciate your listening to them and tucking them in your heart to think about them at a later date when we can meet more formally and have them, excuse me, fleshed out. Thank you very much, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Next speaker tonight is Mr. Tim McDonald.
My name's Tim McDonald, live at 14311 Beatty'sford Road in Huntersville.
Good evening.
Got a noise complaint for the Spartan Community School of Davison. I've called the police on several occasions. It's not only the speakers, it's the band, the yelling. It's happening on Wednesday nights, Friday nights, and now they're starting to do stuff on Saturdays. I've called the several council members. They've called me back. Also had Ms. Phillips come, and she has recorded in my driveway of the noise. I'm asking the town, we've got to do something. This is starting to get ridiculous. My wife works from home. She's a safety coordinator for Atrium Health. She was on an important call. The vice president asked her to cut the radio down, and it was actually the speakers from the school. That's pretty much all I've got. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, thank you. Next speaker tonight is Chuck Davis. He's come from out of town. Please state your name and address. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is Chuck Davis. My address is 10 McFarland Road, Pinehurst, North Carolina. And I'm here to read a letter from my father. And it's in connection with the North Creek Village rezoning. Members of the Huntersville Board of Commissioners, one of the matters that is before the board this evening is the rezoning for the second phase of North Creek Village. My wife Faye and I are the current owners of 45 acres, or just over half the land that makes up the project. This land has been in our family since the mid-1800s, roughly 25 years before the town was incorporated. During my youth and when my own children were young, this was a rural area. We were able to use and enjoy our land in a way that is no longer possible, to hunt, to farm, to live a rural lifestyle. But a lot has changed in Huntersville since that time. Many new people have moved here and new subdivisions have been built to house them. Schools, hospitals, and new office and commercial buildings have been built to accommodate them. New roads have been built to handle the traffic. Soon, NC 73 will be widened into a 4-lane highway. Growth is a sign of a healthy and vibrant town and reflects on what a wonderful place Huntersville is to live. Town leadership has thoughtfully planned our area as an activity node in a comprehensive town plan that has the support of the community. We have welcomed the changes around us and have not opposed the many new neighbors and development that has come. But these changes have affected us as well. We no longer hunt and farm on our property, and we are now ready to sell the land we have used for generations. We ask that this board follow the town's plans that have been adopted over the years for our land and approve the project before you tonight. Sincerely, Charles S. Davis, Jr.
Well, thank you. Can you give that letter to the clerk? She's right over there, and we'll
Yes.
put that in the record.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Our final speaker tonight is Mr. Tim Mays, sorry. Sorry, Mr. Mays. Please state your name and address. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the board, I want to share with you a perspective tonight relative to the item in front of you, the North Creek Village mixed-use project. That perspective comes from 6 property owners that own 34 acres of that development. I happen to be one of those, along with myself is my sister and brother, and we have 3 cousins. Mr. Davis just shared with you a perspective from legacy property owners. And I speak to you tonight with a lot of emotion, a lot of concern about the quality of project that you have in front of you. And let me quickly just say that after 10 years of conversations with different developers, different members of the town staff, a lot of internal conversations within our family, we are extremely pleased with the product that you have in front of you to approve tonight. The current membership group happens to remember our Uncle Will, who owned the 34 acres that we now own, who passed away about 65 years ago. We remember spending time on that property. He was the kind of person that I think we would all respect. He was the kind of person that you would always want to be looking in the eye of and saying, yes, sir, no, sir. And in this particular case, we see what we're doing as a family as something that needs to pass the test of looking at Uncle Will in the eye and saying, for this property that's been in our family for 200 years, we want to pass it along in a quality way for this community. He was active in this community. And so quite frankly, many of our family, I have been in this position a time or two in recent years, would kind of like to kick the can on down the road further. Because when you're talking about property that's been in a family for this long, and when you realize that you should come to the table in a spirit of humility, because as a current property owner, you've done nothing to be in the position of being a property owner. But you owe it to those who have gone before you. We realize that there are different perspectives about this from folks who haven't been, who aren't in the community and have not been in the community for years and years. We respect that as well. We really do. We believe that in your public processes that you have, that they're good processes where you accept input from many. It's your responsibility to hear different perspectives and put together, make a decision based on all those perspectives. This is our first opportunity to share with you our perspective, and we respect your position. We'll honor your decision, whatever it might be. But legacy is important to us, and doing the right thing for the community in a way that brings honor to our ancestors and that provides a quality of life moving forward is something that we want to do. For those who say, things have changed a lot since I've moved to Huntersville. Well, let me tell you, growing up on Mays Road, I remember when we might have 8 or 10 cars pass Mays Road, our property, a day. Thank goodness for the changes we've had. You know, so we respect the position and the perspective of those who have been here less time than we have been here. But at the same time, in our hearts and our souls, in our thought processes as a family, we realize that the time is now for us to do something right. There are only 6 of us. In 7 or 8 years, as some of us age out, there could be 20 of us. And from a business standpoint, it's not right for us to push that can or kick that can down the road for those that come behind us. Thank you for what you do. Having spent a little time in the public sector myself, I know it's a thankless job. And I know that you have to go through a lot of consideration with everything you do. And it's never as simple. Being in the chairs you're in, it's never as simple to those of us that stand here as it looks to be. There are a lot of considerations that you have to make. So we respect where you are. We are pleased with Mr. Vinson's work, the developer, and the company that he's chosen, Colgan Est, is top quality. And so we believe we could look Uncle Will in the eye and say, sir, this is the best we can do to pass on your legacy. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. All right, no one else is signed up. Do I have a motion for the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? 6-0. All right, we'll go to public hearings. Our first public hearing is which will open up, is conduct a public hearing on amendments to the sedimentation and soil erosion control ordinance to comply with HB 489. Ms. Sloop, good evening.
Good evening. You have in your agenda package proposed edits to the town's soil erosion and sedimentation control ordinance. These are all prompted by legislative changes and necessary to comply with House Bill 489. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about the proposed edits, but again, they're prompted by legislative change and necessary.
Commissioner Boone?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion, please.
Wait, we're in the public hearings.
Well, okay, go ahead.
Thank you. You got a plane to catch? Any questions of Ms. Sloop at this time? Okay, we will close the public hearing. Now, we'll go to other business. 8A, consider decision on amendments to the sedimentation and soil erosion control ordinance to comply with HB 489.
apologize for getting ahead of my skis there. So, motion to approve the amendment to the sediment and soil erosion ordinance complying with House Bill 489.
Is there a
Second.
Commissioner Bales? Any discussion? All those in favor? That motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
We're supposed to make it look easy here. All right, we'll go to 8B.
How many more meetings are left?
Consider a decision on petition R21-06 North Creek Village Mixed Use, a request by Magnolia Development LLC to rezone 84 acres south of North Carolina 73 and Davidson Concord Road intersection from rural to highway commercial and traditional neighborhood development conditional district for development consisting of 42,500 commercial square feet, 303 multifamily units, 65 attached units, and 77 detached units. Mr. Pete.
Thank you, Mayor.
Good evening.
Very briefly, want to just go through the changes that have transpired with the plan since the Planning Board's recommendation to you, as well as the staff report that went out to you last week. I believe everybody knows where the property is located, the 84 acres just south of 73, where Davidson Concord Road intersects, and generally between Black Farm Road and Raymond Church Road. This sheet here represents the totality of those changes, and I'm going to run through them as quickly as possible. One of the primary changes are the items in yellow there. Those lots were previously townhome lots. They're now shown as single-family, detached. They would be under 60 foot in width. I believe they're about 50. This area here in yellow also represents a change from townhomes, a removal into detached single family. You'll also note in the bottom part of the screen there are two call-outs showing that there will be on-street parking as required by the ordinance in this single family section due to the size of the lots. There was a comment about circulation in the commercial area, and that has been augmented quite significantly. So there are no issues there in terms of the provisions for this plan. There was a comment about the stub road under both road options. They're listed as A and B, and only one of them showed a stub to the north. That has been corrected, so it's shown under both scenarios. So that would be pursuant to the staff comment. The buffer on Black Farm Road, it's shown as 100 foot, and it was not clear if all of that was proposed to be undisturbed. You can see the call out there that 80 feet, the first 80 feet would be undisturbed, and the last 20 proposed to be disturbed if needed and then replanted. So it is acceptable to staff. You can see here that we were looking for elevations for the multifamily, while the image to the top, and I'll let the applicant speak more to that, but it is generally giving you a little bit of a flavor. But more specifically, the two main points are in the lower right, you can see a footprint that shows you the access out to the public street, which would be the bottom arrows, and that the units on the ground level will have that access, which is part of our ordinance. And then there are these elements here speaking to the architecture and the design. I won't go through those unless the board would like to, but staff is very comfortable that they are giving a nice parameter with which the next stage of the project will move. There were a couple of notes that needed a little strengthening. Note number 6, talking about permitted uses and where they may go. The area in red there speaks to that density would not be increased along the external boundaries of the project without review by the director. So that tightened that up a little bit. And then the last note was that there was a recommended trail connection from 2 residential areas, and it was a little bit vague as to whether that was actually going to be offered up. But they have provided the notation that you see there, and again, going back to the director. And as long as it is an approvable item by whatever government authorities are appropriate, that will be part of the plan. Just giving you a quick update of what these changes mean. You still have 303 proposed apartment buildings. The detached units are 116 at this point. The attached units, or the townhomes, if you will, the 65, they have been eliminated. The square footage of commercial is unchanged, still 42.5. So you're looking at a total density, or a proposed density, excuse me, in the 84 acres of 4.9 units per acre, which is down from the 5.3 that the planning board saw. This is the breakdown of those densities. You can see that the pink area on the west or what would be the left side of the screen, is dropped to 2.2. And then in the blue triangular on the east or the right, you can see it's down to 1.71 where the townhomes were removed. This is just a history of where the density has gone. If you'd like to see that, we can talk through that. These are the TIA elements that still do not appear on the plan. We need to see those as part of the plan. So that is just something that the applicants can commit to. There were a couple of other transportation comments that are shown in these two slides. They have to do with some very specific setups through our engineering manual and practices. If you'd like to have any further discussion about these elements, our representative from the engineering department can certainly do that. I believe that the applicants are amenable to these being added to the plan, and they can speak to that in just a moment. But we would like to have those stipulated. And the way that would work, this is the motion this is the recommendation from staff. And you can see that all of the first elements have been satisfied with the red notation. The last two items there are that the TIA/transportation comments would be addressed per the comments from the plan, and then all the other red lines that are on the plan that would be minor in nature. So we don't essentially have other conditions other than those two items. The planning board on September 28th did review, and their recommendation to you was denial of the plan as it's proposed by 7-2 vote, and you can see their rationale there. Speaking to not protecting, enhancing the character on Black Farm and Rama. And here is the motion prompts if you would like. I'm happy to go back through any of these updates, elaborating on any if you need to. Otherwise, Mr. Vincent and Ms. Susan Irvin are here to represent the applicants if you have questions of them.
All right. Are there any questions or motion or Commissioner Munger?
I have a question for staff. Staff comment on EOS 6, page 11 of our packet. The typical road cross-section should not be installed along Black Farm Road to preserve the rural character of the corridor. Can you explain what is meant by this? Does this mean we don't want a road off Black Farm?
No, that does not have to do with the connection, and I apologize, this is new. So this is the residential road that would tie into Black Farm Road, and that is running in between those two 100-foot buffers that I referenced a minute ago. What that comment was referring to was there was an anticipated setup by the applicant that they would do standard road improvements on Black Farm at their frontage. So you would think about widening if possible, or if necessary, sidewalks, street trees, those types of things. But our 2040 plan calls out about 3 or 4 roads that have a historic connotation to them. And in respect to that context, the cross-section needs to really be explored very specifically. And so what we were doing there was basically saying, don't put the standard package in this place. Let us, if it were to be approved, study that at the next level. And so the cross-section that is in the plan today simply mimics what's there, and we would take a look at that issue if it is to go to the next level, if the board were to approve.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or motion? Commissioner Boone?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In considering the proposed rezoning application R21-06 North Creek Village Mixed-Use Conditional District rezoning, the town board approves the rezoning with conditions. The rezoning is approved as it is consistent with policy recommendation LU1, LU2, LU 3.1, LU 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, and EOS 10 of the 2040 Community Plan. Recommendation of approval is based on the following conditions as outlined in Part 5 of the staff report. With those conditions, it is reasonable and in the public interest to rezone 84.0 acres as described in Attachment B of the staff report from rural to North Village Mixed-Use Conditional District Rezoning Plan to permit 42,500 square feet of commercial space, 303 apartments, and 116 single-family homes because it is consistent with the 2040 Comprehensive Plan, and applicable provisions of the zoning ordinance can be adequately addressed with staff recommendations and conditions listed in the staff report. The TIA comments and red lines need to be addressed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Walsh? Any discussion?
Mr.
Mr.
Mayor,
Walsh?
Yep. I will tell you that I've often said that when the 2040 plan supports, or in my opinion, supports a project, when planning staff supports it and the planning board recommends something, it makes my job a little bit easier. I will tell you, as late as Friday, I was probably not a hard no, but a no on this particular project. But even with the additional changes that were made over the weekend, I will now be in support of it. The planning board had a couple of issues. It was a split decision by the planning board, but the LU 11, protecting existing housing stock, the elimination of the townhomes to the east and west, and the feathering out made this a more acceptable project. EOS 6, preservation of rural elements, the Black Farms Road that was mentioned, which is identified to preserve scenic beauty. Again, there's a 100-foot buffer plus no improvements on the outside, kind of shielding the community. So overall, with the overall reduction in density, and the trail connection was pretty important to me. I think it has more of a village setting, and I believe it's going to be a great project.
Okay, great. Commissioner Bales, did you have a comment?
yes. I originally was interested in hearing from the petitioner, but since we jumped straight
Well, you
into
can
the
still-
motion.
You can still ask for the petitioner to come up.
No, that's fine. I just want to say that, in listening to the planning board's concerns, I believe that the petitioner has addressed the majority, if not all of them, as we look to create this node and feather back out into the rural community. I will be supporting this project. I think that it is an excellent project for this activity node. And I look forward to seeing what happens out there with the area businesses and the families that ultimately move into this space. I would like to remind the board and remind the next board that this activity node is what it is, a node in which we want to make sure that we're continuing to preserve the rural character to the east as well as to the west of Huntersville. So it's going to be very important for these future boards to acknowledge that and preserve the rural character outside the node. So with that, back to you, Mr. Mayor. Those are all my comments.
Commissioner Phillips?
So I'm the queen of no as time has gone on, and I just want to thank the developer for being so amenable to the questions, the requests, the meetings, the time, because I know that we are an interesting cast of characters, and I feel like in times we were making your job difficult, and you have done a great job addressing our concerns. I just wanted to thank you for that, and yes, I will be supporting this.
Okay. All right, any other comments? All right, all those in favor of the motion? Seeing none opposed, the motion passes. 6-0. All right, next on our agenda is 8C, consider decision on Black Farms Road Farmhouse Cluster, a request by Black Farms Collective LLC to subdivide 12.27 acres of land located on the east side of Black Farms Road to create a 6-lot farmhouse cluster development. Good evening, Ms. Speak.
Good evening.
Okay, get to the,
I'm going dizzy here. I'm getting dizzy.
what was this like, eye test?
Okay, I'd like to enter the staff report into the record for this farmhouse cluster. As mentioned, the Black Farms Road Farmhouse Cluster is proposing six single-family lots, which is the maximum number of lots you can get in a farmhouse cluster, off of Black Farms Road. The project size is is a little over 12 acres, and it is currently zoned rural. Just for some context, Okay, so here's where the proposed project is. And then you have an existing farmhouse cluster to the east, and it's surrounded mostly by single-family residential. There's a farm across the street, and then there's some proposed development that's surrounding as well. I have to refer to my copy because I can't see that far. Okay, so the proposed development is preserving the minimum amount of open space that's required for the development, as well as meeting the minimum tree save that's required for the rural zoning district as well. They have included plans for erosion control as a part of their site plan, and they've also included construction documents for the private drive that is required to be built to town street standards as well. Okay, one of the comments that staff has been working on with the submitting firm is regarding the 60-foot buffer along Black Farms Road, and the firm has worked to resolve that comment to ensure that there is an opaque vegetative buffer along Black Farms Road at the entrance of the development, given that there is some existing vegetation along Black Farms Road. And currently there's some vegetation there. Staff is going to ensure that when we stamp approval, there will be a comment noting that any vegetation that is removed in the process of construction would have to be supplemented before the completion of the project. Okay, so staff is finding that the site plan meets 10 of the 11 conditions that are outlined in the Huntersville zoning ordinance for a farmhouse cluster in the rural zoning district. The significant concern is about the buffer, and in light of the recent concerns with regard to Charlotte water, staff has also been in contact with the submitting firm about that, because the farmhouse cluster is planning to be on public sewer and water currently, which would have a significant implication for the open space and tree save requirements for the farmhouse cluster. Farmhouse clusters are allowed to have septic systems in common open space, but if the farmhouse cluster has to revise that, it may prove that the development is not able to meet the minimum requirements there. So staff has been in conversation with the applicant about that, and they are working on their capacity assurance letter. In the meantime, they are currently still planning to go with the Charlotte Water for public sewer and water connection. Staff has also worked with the other minor comments that we have on the plan, and the submitting firm is also working on their outstanding land development comments. Therefore, staff does recommend approval of the project pending the outstanding comments are addressed. Take any questions that you may have at this time.
I do have one question.
Commissioner Bales?
Just to clarify, if they disturb the 60-foot buffer, they will go back in and replant?
Yes, they will be required to replace that vegetation so that there is an opaque buffer.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Is there a motion?
Is the
Commissioner
applicant
Munger?
available?
Excuse me?
Is the applicant available?
Is
I do
anybody
not
here
believe
representing the
applicant is here
applicant?
this evening.
Okay. I have a motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve a request by Black Farms Collective LLC to subdivide plus or minus 12.27 acres of land located on the east side of Black Farms Road to create a 6-lot farmhouse cluster development. With the understanding that the outstanding comments from Planning Department and Huntersville Land Development being addressed.
Second?
All right, Commissioner Bales. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? Seeing none opposed, and motion passes 6-0. Next item is 8D, which is our favorite, quasi-judicial. This is quasi-judicial hearing, application submitted for Burkdale Village subdivision, sketch plan and revision. As a reminder, quasi-judicial hearings are evidentiary in nature. The board must base quasi-judicial decisions upon competent, relevant, and substantial evidence in the record. Competent evidence is evidence that is sufficiently trustworthy and reliable, and that is legally fit and acceptable for consideration by the board. Speculative, irrelevant, or vague evidence, non-expert opinions, as is something that requires an expert, and non-accepted hearsay evidence will likely not be competent evidence. Material evidence is evidence that shows that the standards will or will not be met. Evidence is substantial if it is relevant and regarded by a reasonable person as sufficient to support a specific conclusion. Speculation, unsubstantiated fears of the community, or vague assertions do not constitute substantial evidence. Quasi-judicial hearings are constrained by the standards in the ordinance and the facts presented. Only parties with standing, along with the applicant, local government, and individuals who can show they will suffer special damages, have the right to participate fully in the hearing. Parties may present evidence, call witnesses, and make legal arguments. Other individuals may speak as a witness, however, they will not be allowed to participate fully as a partner, such as by questioning other witnesses or by calling other persons to testify. Witnesses must swear or affirm their testimony. General witness testimony is limited to facts, not personal preferences or preference or opinions. Certain topics require expert witnesses, including projections about impacts on property values and traffic impacts. Individuals providing expert opinion testimony must be qualified as experts and provide the factual evidence upon which they base their expert opinion. Mere conclusory testimony lacking the foundation of the expert's opinion is insufficient to establish the existence of or non-existence of a fact or conclusion. Even though the board may rely on other evidence, if it is not objected to, the board should rely on competent, relevant, reliable evidence in making this decision. So, who do we have here? And please introduce yourselves. Let's go with staff first.
Stephen Trott with engineering.
Brian Richards for planning staff.
Okay, and the applicant?
Michael Lant, North American Properties.
Nick Lombardo with North American Properties.
Okay. No one here from the public to speak on this tonight? All right, I'm just going to go ahead and swear you all in, so please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. All right. The parties in this case are entitled to an impartial board. A board member may not participate in this hearing if she or he has a fixed opinion about the matter, a financial interest, in the outcome of the matter, or a close relationship with the affected person. Does any board member have any partiality to disclose or conflict of interest to offer at this meeting tonight? Okay. We also, any ex parte communication. So the parties in this case have the rights for any ex parte communication to be disclosed. Ex parte communication is any communication about the case outside the hearing. That may be an email communication as well as conversation with party staff or the general public. Does any board member have any ex parte communication to disclose? And I will just basically say I did attend the public hearing, and I had attended a meeting months before. Didn't even know it was going to be quasi-judicial, but it's not going to affect my impartiality in conducting this meeting. Commissioner Bales?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I did speak with someone from North American Properties which gave me an idea of what this was going to be, but I did not realize it would be quasi-judicial. I apologize for that. However, it will not affect my judgment at all.
Commissioner Munger?
Similar, I had a conversation, someone had mentioned that there were upcoming changes to coming to Burkdale Village. I was unaware of what they were. I was curious, but as it turned out, I found out it was quasi-judicial, so I dropped that. It will not affect my impartiality.
Commissioner Hines?
Well, I did have conversations with North American Properties, but this was regarding Highway 73. This was a long time ago, right after you purchased the property, and has no bearing on this or partiality regarding this decision.
Okay. Commissioner Boone?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended a neighborhood meeting, but I believe they went over this program they're going to show us tonight, but it will have no effect on the decision that I make.
Anybody else? Okay. Mr. Richards?
Good evening. Brian
Evening.
Richards for the planning staff. At this time, I'd like to enter my staff report to the record. As we had mentioned before, or heard before, there was a neighborhood meeting back in August of this year describing this project. We're all familiar with Birkdale Village, roughly 55 acres owned highway commercial conditional district under an old R0103 rezoning plan from a long time ago. You can see here's a current aerial of the facility. The proposal tonight affects 1.78 acres, currently being used as common open space and parking. The proposed uses are to create 4 new commercial lots, revisions to the common open space, and the creation of a new pocket, I think of the name of the new urban open space toward the end, towards the movie theater, and also the abandonment of a portion of Lindholm Drive. You can see here in the image in front of you, the developers are looking to create 3 jewel box buildings and also a valet and concierge service area in the western portion of Birkdale Village towards Highway 73. Towards the movie theater, they will be removing the existing fountain and have 4 small retail buildings that will be used for seasonal products. There's a revision to the trees out there. Back in the 2001 ordinance, they did not have tree canopy or tree counts as we do today. They simply had to save as many trees as possible. Currently in the project area, there are 142 trees. 32 of those are to be removed due to construction and site distance triangles. The applicant is proposing to replant 21 trees. The open space revision, there will be a reduction of 0.8 acres of common open space for the creation of those lots. Impervious, there will be no new impervious area. There will actually be a slight decrease in impervious area due to the revisions. You can see that here. The existing is on the left and the proposed is on the right. You can see the revised central portion of Birkdale, which will have a larger open area where the current fountain is. There will be a reduction of 78 parking spaces. That is also because of the widening of the common areas in the middle. They're required of 1,082 spaces. Currently, there are 2,118. When this is done, there will be 1,940. And the applicant will, like I said, will be providing concierge parking for folks, or valet parking for folks. They do require a block length modification due to the closing of Townley Drive. I'm sorry, a portion of Lindholm Drive around the center. Currently, the block length of Birkdale Commons Parkway in that area is 514.79 feet. If that roadway is closed and abandoned, that would make the block length 575 feet and 575 feet, 54 inches. So they would be required to get a block length modification. In regards to the 2040 community plan, Birkdale Village is located in the town's core, but also within mixed-use center. And the following policies support the revision to the plan. Staff is recommending approval, pending the block length modification, and any outstanding planning comments are addressed. As of this afternoon, there are no outstanding comments. And on September 28th, the planning board recommended approval, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have. Yes, sir.
Okay, Commissioner Hines.
The block length waiver, does the access to one of the underground or the parking lots, does that not break up the block?
It does not in highway
Okay.
commercial. That's only for TND that you can use mid-block crossings.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Munger?
Yeah, just a question of clarification, because it's quasi-judicial. Literally, the only thing we're looking at tonight is a waiver on the block length.
They're asking to increase the lot count from 20 to 24 and the block length, correct.
Okay. And I did have a question, or just a comment, I guess, for the applicant. Reducing parking spaces by 78 is a concern for me. I find it already relatively difficult to park in Birkdale Village. I know that's not something we can openly consider on this. I just want that comment added because parking in Birkdale Village is painful. That's it.
All right, Commissioner Walsh?
It's a follow-up on the parking. So if parking's being reduced by 78 spaces, does the formalized valet parking get any of those back, or where are they parking?
Okay, so you want to hear from the applicant now? Or
Whoever
staff?
can answer the question.
Okay, well, I'll go back to the. Okay, Mr. Lant?
Yes, thank you. Yes, the valet service is something we provide to most of our developments, and it is, in fact, to make it convenient for folks to come in and get dropped off. The parking spaces where the valet will use will be in the parking deck, so they can double stack, triple stack cars. So to answer both questions, yes, we lose 78 on the main drive, but that should be taken up by the convenience of the valet.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, is there a motion? Commissioner Walsh?
In considering the
Oh,
Bur-
wait, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
You asked.
I know. Well, you go ahead, you can do the motion.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead, do the motion.
In considering the Birkdale Village subdivision sketch plan revision, we, the town board, find the application is complete. The application is consistent with the 2040 community plan and is in keeping with the spirit and intent of the town's future land use plans, and is supported by the following policies: LU 5.1, LU 6.2, LU 8.1, and EV 2.1. The sketch plan complies with all standards, but is subject to the following: the block length modification of Birkdale Commons Parkway not to exceed 575.54 linear feet is approved, and all outstanding red line comments from staff are addressed. I would like to make a motion to approve the Birkdale Village subdivision sketch plan revision.
Second.
Commissioner Phillips? Okay. As a reminder, this board is tasked with deciding if, based on the evidence presented at the hearing before this board, this proposal meets the applicable standards. If the applicant meets their burden of producing competent material and substantial evidence that the standards in the ordinance will be met, the burden shifts to the other parties opposing the application to show by competent material and substantial evidence that the standards in the ordinance will not be met. The application, as originally submitted, was considered by the planning board, and the planning board made a recommendation. Nothing that occurred at the planning board level, including the planning board's recommendation, is considered evidence that you can base your decision on. However, the planning board's recommendation may be useful to the board in identifying issues that this board may want to consider and evaluate based upon the evidence that was presented at the hearing before this board. So we have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? The motion passes 6-0. Staff will draft and I will sign a final written decision to reflect the vote and reasoning for this decision. The written decision will be provided to the applicant and other parties with the right to such notice. Thank you all. We look forward to the improvements. I guess, Mr. Lombardi, you're going to have to stay around. All right, next on our agenda is 8E, consider decision on petition TA 21-07, a text amendment request made by Nick Lombardo on behalf of North American Properties to amend Article 4, shopfront building architectural standards of the Huntersville zoning ordinance to allow shopfront buildings to use decorative metal panels such as aluminum composite material panels as an accent or trim material. Ms. Speak, you're back.
I am.
Okay.
I'd like to enter the staff report into the record. So this is text amendment 21-07, which came before you for a public hearing September 7th of this year. Since that time, the planning board has made a motion to approve this text amendment unanimously for shop front buildings to be allowed to have decorative metal panels such as ACM with conditions. And I'll take any questions that you may have.
Any questions, any motions, Commissioner Wall?
Just for clarification, so we allow this same standard in other zonings. This is just adding it to this zoning.
So it's based on the building type, and we currently allow it for urban workplace building types and highway commercial building types up to 30% of the facade that is facing the public street. So there's a limitation, and the applicant is proposing the same limitation for shopfront building types.
Then I have a motion.
Okay. Commissioner Walsh?
In considering the proposed amendment TA 21-07 to amend Article 4 shopfront building architectural standards of the Huntersville zoning ordinance to allow shopfront buildings to use decorative metal panels such as aluminum composite material, ACM panels, as an accent or trim material, the town board approves the application based on the amendment being consistent with policies LU 8 and LU 8.1 of the Huntersville 2040 Community Plan. It is reasonable and in the public interest to amend the zoning ordinance because it allows greater flexibility in interior material types for shopfront buildings, and the zoning ordinance currently allows metal panels to accent and trim materials for highway commercial and urban workspace building types.
Second.
Commissioner Bales? Any other discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Commissioner Bales.
The only thing that I'm going to say is that by making this change, it certainly is going to allow our businesses to have a bit of personality on the fronts of their shops. So I am pleased to be able to support this evening.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion, comments? All right, all those in favor? Seeing that, 6-0. Well, we're looking forward to the new Burkdale, so to speak. Thank you. All right, our next item on our agenda is 8F, which is consider decision on petition TA 21-13, a request by Trinity Capital Advisors to amend the zoning ordinance allowing the Board of Commissioners to approve a modification of a small stream buffer in the Mountain Island Lake Overlay Zone through a conditional rezoning process in the corporate business zoning district. Mr. Semino.
Thank you, Mayor. Enter the staff report into the record. What is before you is TA 13, Trinity Capital Advisors and Mountain Island Lake Buffer change. The language that is being proposed is the bold underlined print. It will allow impact on a stream that's draining less than 50 acres to be impacted if there's a conditional district rezoning to corporate business. It's in the PA2, the Protected Area 2 zone. That is what's highlighted in yellow on the map below. This was run through the state of North Carolina because it is part of the watershed protection regulations required by North Carolina. They've given tentative approval. If it's approved tonight, we will officially send that plan to them so that they can finally decide it. It also has the recommendation from Mecklenburg County Water Quality is recommending approval as well. Planning staff in your agenda packet recommended approval of this request. The planning board recommended approval of this text amendment and as well unanimously, or excuse me, 8-1. And I would be happy to answer any questions the board has at this time.
Any questions? Commissioner Mott?
I have a motion.
Oh, okay, great.
I'd like to make a motion to approve TA 20-13 based on the amendment being consistent with LU-8, EV-1, and EOS-1 of the Huntersville 2040 Community Plan. It is reasonable and in the public interest to amend the zoning ordinance because the amendment allows an additional option to impact stream buffers subject to conditional rezoning and mitigation.
Second.
Commissioner Hines? Any other comments, questions, discussion? All right, all those in favor? Seeing none, motion passes 6-0. Item 8G is consider decision on petition R21-11, a request by Trinity Capital Acquisitions LLC and Mike Clapp to rezone 23.14 acres from SPCD to CBCD on 10695 Hambright Road. Mr. Semino?
Thank you, Mayor. Enter the staff report into the record. This map shows you the location. It's at the northwest corner of Mount Holly, Huntersville, and Hambright Road. It's a little over 20 acres in land. This is a request to have a corporate business conditional district. This will be taking advantage of the text amendment that was just approved. What you see highlighted in yellow is that portion of the stream buffer that will be affected by this proposed development. And they will have to mitigate that. So whatever the linear feet of that stream is that's impacted, They will have to make up using one of 9 options from the Town of Huntersville ordinance, and that will be approved by the town engineering staff as well as Mecklenburg County on that mitigation. Staff recommends approval, and the planning board also recommended approval, which was in your agenda packet at this point in time, and you have to answer any questions.
Commissioner Munger, you have a question or motion?
Motion.
Okay.
And my apologies in advance, this is going to be long, and I nod to Frank Gammon, this is going to sound familiar. Motion to approve the proposed rezoning petition 21-11 based on the amendment being consistent with Article 11.4.7D of the Huntersville zoning ordinance, LU-1.1, LU-5.1, LU-7.1, and EV-1.2 of the Huntersville 2040 Community Plan. Additionally, the amendment is consistent with Article 11.4.7E of the Huntersville zoning ordinance in that the property is located within a designated employment center, and the proposed rezoning is consistent with the overall character of development within the immediate vicinity. In fact, prior to being rezoned to special purpose CD, the property had previously been zoned corporate business CD. It is reasonable and in the public interest to amend the rezoning plan because the rezoning is consistent with the envisioned uses and development patterns set forth in the 2040 Community Plan. In addition, the proposed development will expand the Huntersville economic base. This approval is contingent upon, 1, a text amendment which would allow impact of swim buffers within the Mountain Island Lake Protected Area 2 overlay zone with required buffer mitigation being met. 2, approval of stormwater drainage systems concept plan. 3, receipt of Charlotte Water willingness to serve letter. 4, all outstanding red line comments are satisfactorily addressed with the staff.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Boone? Any discussion, comments? All right. All those in favor? Motion passes 6-0. All right, we'll go to 8H. Consider adopting resolution approving the construction contract for Phase 2 of the downtown Greenway. Mr. Jay Cox, welcome.
Good evening. In front of you tonight is a construction contract for Phase 2 of the downtown Greenway with J.D. Goodrum. We received 3 bids part of this process, and actually between the lowest bid and the second lowest bid was only 1% difference in cost, which is a good sign, because the third bid was twice as much as the other 2, so that made us feel comfortable. This Greenway will go from Sherwood Drive to Commerce Center Drive as well. We do have a budget amendment and the consent agenda to fund the remainder of this project. 3 years ago, when we did the cost estimate for this project, we didn't have the detailed design. We added the trailhead and additional parking, and then our easement through some of the property that we're dealing with got tighter. So we had to add additional boardwalk, raised boardwalk, and some retaining walls. So that is the reason for the additional need for additional funds for the project.
Do you have a question or a
Yeah.
motion?
Do you by any chance have a picture to?
So it's going of course you can't see that. So you can't really see the circle in yellow. So it's Phase 1, it goes from Holbrook Park, you see on the screen, to Commerce Center Drive. And then the rest of that red line, getting to 77 is part of the Highway 21 road improvements, which will be a wide sidewalk along those streets. There'll be an at-grade crossing on 21 to get you to the tunnel that the county should be going to bid for the project from the tunnel to Rosedale Park by the end of the year. So that this kind of shows you all that in red should be turning green in the next couple of years. Our project is an 8-month project, meaning in 8 months you can go from the trailhead to Commerce Center Drive while we wait for the 21 road improvements and all that gets completed. And then of course the green is Greenway that's already there. And then you got the other connection going north. The county has funds and designing of that. So if you remember during the retreat from downtown to Birkdale, about 7 miles, hopefully in the next 4 or 5 years you'll be able to do that. And you're going to use 3 tunnels. You only really cross one major road. So this is just another piece of that puzzle that we're working on.
So 8 months from now, give or take, whatever that is, next summer, you'll be able to go from the trailhead basically to Commerce Center Drive or weave your way through to the park and ride potentially. And then the section that is from, we'll call it the tunnel west to the new Rosedale Nature Park, when do you anticipate that to be
So they're
done?
thinking 18 months, once they start, so, you know, maybe 2 years from now, you better go from downtown all the way to Cedar Field.
And I'm sorry, when did you say they're going to start that?
They're hoping to go to bid by the end of the year.
Okay.
So 18 months from then. So that's why I say 2 years from now, you should be able to go that whole length all the way to, so you're better, the Cedar Field neighborhood can walk downtown or bike downtown.
In about 2 years. Cool. Okay.
Commissioner Hines?
I'd like to make a motion. We approve the resolution approving the construction contract for Phase 2 of the downtown Greenway.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Walsh?
Question.
Do you have a
I
question?
just have a quick follow-up question. When you say Commerce Center Drive, are you meaning to the post office or to 21?
Now, Commerce Center Drive, so behind the post office. So if you take Commerce Center Drive, you go, there's 2 businesses behind the post office. Right there is where our easement is.
So then my next question is, if it's not coming down to 21 in front of James Funeral Home, when will that section, is that section part of the tunnel crossing?
That's part of the 21 road improvement project. Is
Okay.
that road will be punched through to Commerce Center Drive.
Okay,
Ar-
so then we really
Arrowhova.
have 3 projects, right? We've got this one to Commerce Center,
Yeah.
and then the extension down to 21, and then from the park and ride under.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, all those in favor? Seeing that, 6-0. All right, final item on the agenda tonight is 8I. Consider approving budget amendment appropriating $20,000 from Historic Ladder Plantation funding to the Carolina Raptor Center in the Tourism Fund.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion
Commissioner Bell?
that we appropriate $20,000 to the Carolina Raptor Center from our tourism fund, and that these funds will be transferred from the historic Latta Plantation funding over and create a new line item for Carolina Raptor Center.
Second.
Commissioner Hines? Any discussion? All right. All those in favor? Is that a yes, Commissioner Phillips?
Yes, yes for ragweed.
All right, that motion passes. All right, and do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
Motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Second. Commissioner Bloom, any discussion? All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, consent agenda. All right, any closing comments? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Hines?
Second.
Commissioner Munger, all those in favor? We are adjourned.
10 minutes.